welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to make the sweater dress that you've just seen at the beginning of the video. This design is one of my favorites and it has a beautiful textured stitch, as you can see on the screen, and you can also style it in several different ways, and that includes with a belt or without a belt, whether with boots or off shoulder. Feel free to style this dress the way you want. So for the materials, you will need yarn. The yarn that I am using is Winter King. It's a 4-ply acrylic yarn, and any substitute yarn would be a DK weight yarn that recommends a 5mm crochet hook. That brings us to my next item or material, which is a 5mm crochet hook. And then you'll also need a pair of scissors, a measuring tape, and some stitch markers. If you would like the written pattern, it's already available on all my online shops. I'll be leaving a link in the description box below. And yeah, let's jump right in. So for the yarn, I used approximately 20 balls to make the whole dress, and that is a total of about 3,000 yards to get the result that you've just seen at the beginning of the video. Okay, so we are going to start off with a slip knot. As I had mentioned earlier on, we are using a textured stitch, and for this project I used a bean stitch. I don't know if you guys have tried it out, but I have several projects that you can try out using this stitch, and I'll be leaving them in the description box below. I have several cardigans that you can try out, and you see whether you love this stitch as much as I do. So we're going to start off with a slip knot, and this pattern is explained in the US terms. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through, and then pull on the tail. That's my slip knot. Now you're going to make a chain of 80, and this chain should be able to wrap around the widest circumference of your head, because at the end of the day we want a well-fitted piece that can pass through our head so that we are able to wear it. I'm going to be demonstrating this design from size extra small all the way to 2XL. But if you follow the instructions, you can even make it bigger if you wish. So you're going to make your chain. Another thing that I want to mention is this piece is loosely fitted. It's not tightly fitted to the body. So this is supposed to be a free-fitting crochet design. If I'm to take a measurement of this chain, I have about 19 inches, 20 inches without stretching. You're going to make sure that your chain is not twisted. As you can see, I'm making sure that my braid is facing up at all times. And you're going to make a slip stitch. You're going to insert your hook into the very first chain, and then you're going to yarn over, pull through all. That's a slip stitch to create a round. This is what you'll have. Now we're going to start off with our bean stitch, the textured stitch of the main body of our piece. You're going to make a chain of 1, and into that same chain you're going to insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all the 4 loops. That's your bean stitch, and then make a chain of 1. Skip over the next chain and create a bean stitch. So insert your hook, pull up a loop. You have 2 loops left on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop. You have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all. That's another bean stitch. Make a chain of 1. So we're going to repeat this bean stitch. After the chain of 1, you make sure you skip 1 chain, and then into the next chain make a bean stitch. I hope you still remember how to do it. I'm going to demonstrate this for some time. Chain 1, skip 1 chain, bin stitch into the next, just like that. So we have our bin stitches, as you can see. So far we have a total of 4, and make sure after a bin stitch you make a chain of 1 to separate it from the next one. So after making a chain of 1, skip the next chain, bin stitch into the next. Just like that. You're going to enjoy this stitch, and once you get the hang of how to make the stitch, you're going to just fall in love with this beautiful stitch. I have a patchwork cardigan using this stitch and a baby's cardigan. So generally it's a stitch that I consider when I want to make rich textures for my pieces. So you're going to repeat this all the way around. Chain 1, skip 1 chain, bin stitch into the next chain. So not to forget, a bin stitch is after skipping 1 chain, insert your hook, pull up a loop. You have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, insert your hook into the same chain, pull up a loop. You have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all. So you're going to repeat this all the way around until you have a total of 40 bin stitches. I believe, yes, you should have a total of 40 bin stitches at the end of round 1. Alright, so we're coming to the end of our round 1, and I'm placing a bin stitch into the next chain. So I have my 40 bin stitches. Now you're going to make a chain of 1 and skip over that last chain, and you're going to slip stitch on top of the very first bin stitch. Now after slip stitching into the very first bin stitch of your round, this is what round 1 will look like. So we're going on to round 2. You're going to make a chain of 1, and this is an increase round. Turn your work, and then into the same bin stitch where you place the slip stitch, you're going to go in there with 1 bin stitch. Insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, and then you have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all. That's our very first bin stitch of round 2. Chain 1, go into the next bin stitch with 1 bin stitch. Chain 1, 1 bin stitch into the next bin stitch. So you're going to do this until you have a total of 4 bin stitches. So this is my 4th. Okay, remember we don't place the bin stitches in the chain 1 space. We place them in that space that's attached to the bin stitch. So when you have your 4 bin stitches, you're going to make a chain of 1, and into the next bin stitch you're going to create an increase. So you're going to go in there with a bin stitch, chain 1, and another bin stitch. Just like that, we've created an increase at this point by placing 2 bin stitches separated by a chain 1 space. After this, you're going to make a chain of 1 and then 1 bin stitch in each of the next 4 stitches. So remember, the bin stitches are placed in the bin stitches from the row below. This is the 3rd one, chain 1, a bin stitch into the next bin stitch. So after the increase, which is here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 bin stitches, and then it's time for us to create another increase. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and then bin stitch into the next bin stitch, chain 1 and another bin stitch, because this is an increase point. So we've created an increase point here and an increase point here. You're going to repeat that all the way around. Chain 1, 1 bin stitch in each of the next 4 bin stitches. So this is 1, 2, 3, and then this is the 4th. And now it's time for us to create an increase. You're going to make a chain of 1. Make sure after a bin stitch you make a chain of 1. Take note of that. Now into the next bin stitch, it's our increase point, so we shall place our 2 bin stitches separated by a chain 1 space. You see how easy the stitch is? We're going to repeat that all the way around until towards the end of the round, and I'll show you how to wind up. One, 2, 3. You should have 4 stitches before you create your increase. Okay, so this is our increase point. So we place our 2 bin stitches separated by a chain 1 space, and then 1 bin stitch in each of the next 4 stitches, 2, 3, and 4, and then create an increase into the next bin stitch. Alright, so we're coming to the end of round 2, and we've placed an increase here. As you can see, we have 2 stitches in this one bin stitch, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you should be left with only 1 bin stitch to end the row or round, and you should end with an increase into the last bin stitch. So you're going to place your bin stitch, chain 1, and another bin stitch into the same exact stitch. So we end with an increase, and then you're going to make a chain of 1 after the bin stitch, and you're going to slip stitch on top of the first bin stitch of the round. You insert your hook and pull through all. So I want to do something. At every increase, I'm going to place a stitch marker, and then we're going to count the sides that we should be having, because as we continue working, these increase points are going to create corners. Alright, so I've placed stitch markers at every increase point in the chain 1 between the 2 stitches that are placed into the same stitch. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 stitch markers. So you can see what we have here. Now that means we have an octagon, because we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 sides for our piece. So I had to just make that clear. If you see corners starting to form on your piece, don't get worried and don't try to straighten them out. So it's time for me to remove these stitch markers. We don't need them right now. I just wanted to demonstrate that, so that if you see an octagon starting to form, you don't start panicking and thinking that you've done something wrong. All right, so we are done with round 2, and this is what it looks like. Round 3 is going to be a non-increase round. So for the yoke of this piece, odd rounds are plain rounds. They are not increase rounds. Even rounds are increase rounds. So you're going to make a chain of 1. This is round 3, and turn your work. All right, now round 3 is going to be a non-increase round. So what we are going to do is to go all the way around, placing 1 bean stitch in each bean stitch from the previous round. This time around, we're going to make a chain of 1 and turn our work so that we are working in the opposite direction of the previous round. And we are not going to go into the very first one that's attached to the chain of 1. You're going to go into the next bean stitch and place a bean stitch, chain 1, bean stitch into the next. So since this is a non-increase round, you're going to just go into each and every stitch with 1 bean stitch and then separate with a chain 1. No increases for round 3. Just go all the way around, placing 1 bean stitch into each bean stitch, and then make sure all the bean stitches are separated by a chain 1 space. I'll meet you back towards the end of round 3. All right, so we're coming to the end of round 3, and I am placing my last bean stitches. Make sure I go into that very last one with a bean stitch. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and slip stitch on top of the very first bean stitch of the round. Round 3 was a non-increase round. That means we've just gone all the way around, placing 1 bean stitch into each bean stitch from the previous round. So round 4 is an increase round. So for round 4, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. And now you're not going to go into the very first stitch attached to the chain of 1. You're going to turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. And into the next bean stitch, you're going to place 1 bean stitch and then make a chain of 1. We want a total of 5 bean stitches this time round. So this is the second one, chain 1 into the next bean stitch, place a bean stitch. This is the third one, chain 1. This is the fourth, chain 1, and this is the 5th. So after your 5 bean stitches, you can mark the very first stitch or the point where you've started your round, because it can get a little bit confusing due to the texture. So I've marked that point where round 4 starts. And this time, instead of the 4 stitches before the increase, this time we have 5 stitches before the increase. So after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to make a chain of 1 and create an increase into the next bean stitch. And I hope you still remember how to create an increase. You just place 2 bean stitches separated by a chain 1 space into the same stitch from the previous row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then an increase. And this is the repeat for this round. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So once you have 5 stitches after the increase, it's time for you to create another increase. So you make a chain of 1 and create another increase into the next stitch by placing 2 bean stitches separated by a chain 1 space into the same stitch from the previous round. So we have an increase here and an increase here. So you're going to go all the way around doing this, and I'll meet you back towards the end of round 4. Alright, so we've come to the end of round 4, and after this increase I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 bin stitches, and then I'm going to end my round with an increase into the last bin stitch of the previous round. So make sure for your increase rounds you always end with an increase into the last stitch. And now you can remove your stitch marker from the beginning of the round and then make a chain of 1 and slip stitch on top of the very first bin stitch of the round. So this marks the end of round 4. Round 5 is an odd round, and remember I told you that odd rounds, no increases. So you're going to just make a chain of 1 and turn your work just like you did for round 3, which is a non-increase round. So you just make a chain of 1 and turn your work, and then go into the next bin stitch, which is this one, that space that's attached to the first bin stitch. So you place your bin stitch there and then mark that point where the round starts from. That just helps you to remember where our round begins. And then you're going to make a chain of 1 and place 1 bin stitch in each and every stitch around, separated by a chain 1 space, of course. So this time no increases because we are working an odd round. And odd rounds, we're just placing plain stitches without increases. Our increases are on the even rounds. So go all the way around, just placing 1 bin stitch in each and every stitch, separated by a chain 1 space. And I'll meet you back at the end of round 5 and show you what to do for round 6. Alright, so we are coming to the end of round 5, and you're going to make a chain of 1, and in the last stitch you're going to just place 1 bin stitch. Remember, this is a non-increase round. So in the last stitch you just place 1 bin stitch and then make a chain of 1 and slip stitch into the very first bin stitch of the round. This marks the end of round 5. Round 6, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. And you're going to go into the next bin stitch with 1 bin stitch. This is an increase round. Remember, even rounds are increase rounds. So make a chain of 1 and then mark the very first bin stitch. Just mark it there to just show you the start of the round. And then you're going to go into the next bin stitch with 1 bin stitch, chain 1. You're going to do this until you have a total of 6 bin stitches this time round before the increase. 5 and 6. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you're going to make a chain of 1 and create an increase into the next stitch by placing a bin stitch, chain 1 and another bin stitch into the same exact stitch. So by now you should notice the kind of flow of the pattern. For round 2, I'm going to just consider the increase rounds, which is 2, 4 and 6. For round 2, we did 4 stitches before the increase. Round 4, we did 5 stitches before the increase. And round 6, we are doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches before the increase. So you should put it at the back of your mind that when it comes to the increase rounds, the number of stitches before the increases keeps increasing by 1 stitch. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but for round 4 we did a total of 5 stitches before the increase, and for round 2, which is still an increase round, we did a total of 4 stitches before the increase. So from here you're going to make a chain of 1 and 1 bin stitch in each of the next bin stitches until you have a total of 6 bin stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and now it's time for us to create an increase. So bin stitch, chain 1 and another bin stitch. So in between the 2 increases we have 6 bin stitches. So go all the way around and I'll meet you back towards the end of the round. Alright, so we've come to the end of round 6, which is an increase round. And remember, every increase round ends with an increase into the very final stitch. So after your 6 standalone bin stitches, you're going to go into the last bin stitch with an increase, which is 2 bin stitches separated by a chain 1 space. Now you're going to make a chain of 1 and then remove your stitch marker from the beginning of the round and slip stitch into the very first bin stitch of the round. This is what your round 6 will look like. We're going on to round 7, and for round 7 it's a plain round. Remember, odd rounds are plain rounds, no increases at all. And from now on I'm going to just explain. Remember what I told you. For the increase rounds, the number of stitches in between the increases keeps increasing by 1 stitch. That means for round 7 you're just going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work, and then make 1 bin stitch in each and every bin stitch from the previous round, because this is a non-increase round and it's an odd round. Make sure you always mark the very first stitch. So you go all the way around, placing 1 bin stitch in each and every stitch from the previous round. Now when it comes to round 8, it will be an increase round, and since for round 6 we placed 6 stitches in between the increases, round 8 will be 7 stitches, because that number keeps increasing by 1. That means for round 8 you'll have a total of 7 bin stitches before the increases. So you just make a chain of 1 and turn your work, make your 7 bin stitches and then increase, 7 bin stitches, increase, and make sure you end with an increase into the very last stitch of round 8. Then round 9 will be an odd round, which will require no increase. So you just make a chain of 1 and turn your work. Make sure you're always working in the opposite direction of the previous round, and then work all the way around. That will be round 9, placing 1 bin stitch in each and every stitch all the way around. Now when it comes to round 10, you will have a total of 8 bin stitches before the increase. So that's the sequence that you're going to keep following. And your yoke, this is the yoke. Your yoke will keep growing and growing, and also maintaining the corners. And then I'll meet you back when I have my desired number of rounds, and also recommend a number of rounds for the different sizes. So for me, I think I'll do a total of 19 rounds, but I'm not going to delay you by showing you each and every round, because we have already explained what to do. So I'm going to go off camera and keep going my yoke until round 19, because right now we are at round 7. So I'm going to keep 8, 9, 10, 11 until round 19, and then I'll also recommend a number of rounds for the different sizes, and then we shall come back and see what to do next. When it comes to the shaping and the lower body of the sweater dress, and also the sleeves and the cuffs, everything will come up after creating our yoke. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back when I have my yoke ready. Hi guys, I ended up with a total of 19 rounds for size extra small, but for all the other sizes, recommendations on the screen. And what we're going to do is get some stitch markers, and we're going to mark the lines along which we have increases. You'll be seeing them along the increase points. So in the stitch between those two stitches that create the increase, just mark it with a stitch marker, just like that, and go all the way around doing this, where you would have placed your next increase. That's the point that you're considering. So you can see the increase here. So in between there, there's a stitch, there's a bin stitch where you would have placed your next increase. All right, so you should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 stitch markers all the way around. And that is going to create a total of 8 corners where we've placed the stitch markers. Now at this point, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, pull through. And we're going to fold our work in a way that one of the corners is in the center, front or back of the sweater. So along this line, just get 2 stitch markers and fold them along that line. So that's how our sweater is going to look like. And another thing that you should make sure you should make sure that when you stretch your work at this point, from this corner to this corner, you should have half of the widest measurement of your body, be it the bust or the hips, because this piece is supposed to fit us as dressed up as a dress. So if your hips are, let me say, 40 inches, this should be slightly stretching to 20 inches. If your bust is the biggest, make sure that measurement is almost half of the biggest measurement of your body. Don't overstretch to distort the look of the stitch. So we're now going to create some chains on the armpits, that armpit area, so that we make our piece not so tightly fitted, but also to create some room, to create a loosely fitted or a comfortable fitting for. So you're going to attach your yarn in the stitch with a stitch marker, and you're going to make a chain to attach onto the stitch marker here, the stitch with the stitch marker on this side. So I'm going to make a chain of 14. So for all the other sizes, just look on the screen. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So after your 14 chains, you're going to, whatever number that I've put on the screen, you're going to chain 1 more and then slip stitch into the stitch with a stitch marker on the opposite side. Just like that. And then you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. And you're going to repeat this on the opposite side, so you can see the extension that we've created. So just leave this part alone. Actually, here you can even remove the stitch markers, because we're not going to do any more increases at this point. We're just going to go across. So you're going to go onto the armpit area of the opposite side and make the same exact number of chains. Attach your yarn into the stitch with a stitch marker chain 14 or whatever number that's needed for your size. And then chain one more and slip stitch into the stitch with the opposite stitch marker. Chain one and cut your yarn. So just like that, we are now going to take a measurement across from here to here. So let me get my measuring tape. Now I have about 20 to 21 inches without stretching, and this should be a comfortable fitting. For 20 times 2 is 40, and yeah, this should be loosely fitted and comfortable for the fitting that I'm going for. So from here, you're going to attach your yarn. In any stitch. So for me, I'll consider this one along this line of increase. Let me say this one. And I'm going to make sure that I'm working in the opposite direction of the previous round. So you're going to attach your yarn. And then we are now going to go all the way around. We are now going to start creating the lower body of our sweater dress. So to do that, you're going to just make a bin stitch into the same stitch, chain one, bin stitch into the next bin stitch, and we are not going to create any increases. We're just going to go all the way across until we get to the chain that we just created in the armpit area, and then I'll show you what to do next. But basically, we are still creating our bin stitch the same exact way. That we've been doing for the previous rows. All right. So you're going to make sure that you go into this bin stitch with the stitch marker with one bin stitch, and then make a chain of one, and then into the first chain here, make sure you go into it. No, actually, you're going to skip over the very first chain here, and then go into the next chain with a bin stitch, chain one, skip the next chain, bin stitch into the next, chain one, skip the next chain, bin stitch into the next, and you're going to repeat that all the way across. So we're coming to the end, and I am placing a bin stitch in the second last chain, and then chain one, skip over the last chain, and then go into the stitch with the stitch marker with the bin stitch where you attached your chain, your extension chain for the armpit, and then chain one and bin stitch into the next bin stitch, and you're going to repeat this going all the way across. Now where I've attached my yarn to start working this round will be the back side, because that's where the seam line will be located. And then on this side, this will be the front panel now. So go all the way across the front panel, creating your bin stitch without creating any increases until you get to your second extension chain, which is this one. So we've created a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bin stitches along the extension chain here, and you should make sure that you do the same exact thing when it comes to the second extension chain. So when you make it all the way across the second extension chain, you're just going to go into each bin stitch with one bin stitch separated by a chain of 1 in between until the end of the round. So from now on, no more increases, and at this point you can remove your stitch markers if you wish, but if you're not yet very sure, just leave them behind until you work a few rows of the sleeves. Alright, so we've come to the end of the round, and you're going to slip stitch into the very first bin stitch of the round. So let's see what we have right now. This is what we have. And now we're just going to keep working all the way around, and don't forget to always turn your work. So we should always make sure that we are working in the opposite direction of the previous round. So you make a chain of 1 and turn your work. As we keep working our project, you'll notice that this curve will keep disappearing, but this will take a few rounds before it does. So you make a chain of 1, turn your work into that same stitch where you placed the slip stitch of the previous row. You're going to place a bin stitch, chain 1, bin stitch into the next bin stitch, chain 1, and we are just going to go all the way around. So we're going to repeat round 2 again and again until we have the length that we want for ourselves. So I'm going to do a few rounds for the middle section, and then I will also demonstrate how to go about the sleeves so that you can go ahead and make as many rounds as you wish for the middle part as well as the sleeves. Alright guys, after a few rounds on the bottom, on the middle section of the sweater, this is what you're going to have. You're going to just keep repeating until you get the length that you want. Now I want to demonstrate for the sleeve before I go too far with the middle part. And I'm going to demonstrate one side, and then what I demonstrate on one of the sides is the same exact thing that you will duplicate on the opposite side. So you're going to attach your yarn in any stitch, but make sure you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. So I'm going to attach my yarn in this stitch, the one with the stitch marker. And then place a bin stitch into the same stitch, chain 1, bin stitch into the next, and you're going to repeat that all the way around. So remember, we have a stitch marker at the top of the sleeve. You're just going to make it all the way across without creating an increase at this point, because our main aim is to just lengthen the sleeve. So this is the stitch marker that I'm talking about at the top corner of the sleeve. We're just going to remove it because we no longer need it, and we're just going to make it all the way across without creating any increase. Just go into each bin stitch with one bin stitch, and make sure you separate each bin stitch with a chain of 1. So for this pattern, we're just going to repeat the same exact process that we did for the middle body of our cardigan or sweater. All right, so I'm placing a bin stitch into the stitch with a stitch marker, and now I'm going to work across the extension chain in the armpits. So to do that, you're going to just look at this extension, and wherever you placed a bin stitch while working the middle body of your piece, you're going to place a bin stitch on the opposite side. So chain one, bin stitch into the next stitch, or chain with the bin stitch. So in each chain that received a bin stitch when you were working across the extension chain, you're going to end up placing a bin stitch into it. All right, so when you make it all the way around, you're going to remove your stitch marker and slip stitch into the very first bin stitch of the round, just like that. So you make a chain of one and turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round, and repeat the same exact row 2 as we have for the middle body of the sweater. And you're just going to keep working back and forth, back and forth. Make sure you're always working in the opposite direction of the previous round until you get the sleeve length that you want. So when I come back in my next clip, I will be mentioning how many rows that I ended up doing, both for the middle section of the sweater and also for the sleeve, in order to get the sleeve length that I wanted for my sweater. So yeah, that's basically it. You're going to repeat the same exact round again and again until you have a full constructed sweater. So as you can see, we are now growing the sleeve, but at the same time we are growing the middle section, and whatever you've done on this side, you will just duplicate onto the opposite side and create the sleeves as well as the middle body, and then I'll meet you back when we have everything ready and we see what to do next. All right, so for the main body of the sweater dress, I did a total of 70 rounds right from the armpit. From here all the way down is 70 rounds. And then for the sleeves, I did a total of 50 rounds. Now, if I'm to take a measurement from the armpit up to the end of the sleeve, which should be from the armpit to your wrist, I have a total of 18 inches, sorry, but a total of 50 rounds. And then from here, from the armpit all the way down, I have a total of about 25 inches, which is a total of 70 rounds altogether. So you're going to do that for your second sleeve as well. And then we are going to fold over this piece for now and create the shaping of the wrist area of our sweater dress, which is going to be a bit tighter. All right, so for the cuff of the sweater dress, you're going to make a slip knot. You're going to make a slip knot, and you're going to determine how thick you want that cuff to be. For me, that is going to be a chain of 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I'm using my 5mm crochet hook still. So you're going to go into the second chain from the hook with a bin stitch. So you insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, and yarn over, pull through all. Chain 1, skip 1 chain, and place a bin stitch into the next chain. Chain 1, skip 1 chain, bin stitch into the next chain. And you're going to repeat that all the way across. So I'm currently placing a bin stitch into the very last chain, and I have a total of 6 bin stitches. And then I'm going to make a chain of 1 and bin stitch into the very first bin stitch, chain 1, bin stitch into the next bin stitch, chain 1, and repeat that all the way across. Make sure you have the same number of bin stitches for each and every row. So I'm done with row 2. And what you're going to consider here is you're going to count the number of bin stitches that you have around your sweater dress sleeve. For me, that's a total of 38 bin stitches. And you're going to divide that number by 2. And that will be the number of rows that you make for the cuff of the sweater dress. So 38 divided by 2 is 19. So I'm going to do a total of 19 rows for the cuff of the sweater dress, and then later on we shall go ahead and attach it onto what we already have. Alright, so I have my 19 rows. I have my 19 rows here, and you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, leaving behind a tail to attach. Now you're going to get your darning needle and attach this piece into a round. So find a way of attaching both sides of the piece to create a round. All right, now this is what we have. We're going to go ahead and attach this. Make sure your hand can go through. It's a bit tight, but once your hand goes through, it will be okay. It will look good on the body when worn. So we're now going to introduce our sleeve, and we are going to attach 2 stitches of the sleeve into each row of the cuff that we just created. 2 bin stitches into each row of bin stitches. So you're going to get your sleeve and attach 2 bin stitches into each and every row of the cuff. One, and then the second one as well. So 2 bin stitches into each row of the cuff that we just created. This is going to create a bubble-like look or a balloon shaping for the sleeve, just like we have for our Golden Hour Crochet Cardigan. So this is what your sleeve is going to look like. Now you're going to go ahead and repeat the same exact process for the second side and create the same exact shaping for the second sleeve. Alright guys, after working on both the sleeves, this is what you're going to have. It looks very beautiful. This is what your sleeves will look like at the base. Now you're going to go ahead and weave in all your tails. I've already done that and your piece is basically done. If you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure you give it a thumbs up and I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.